Welcome to Standing in the Sunlight with Cynthia Rose. We are all on an ever-unfolding unique journey. Join Cynthia Rose as she begins her unique perspective to all that is meaningful. Topics and personalities that support your path, bringing inspiration and passion and heart-centered ways to live a more fulfilling life. A down-to-earth and uplifting sharing of what it means to be spiritual, creative, and living life to the fullest by standing in the sunlight. Born an intuitive medium, Cynthia Rose is also an ordained minister, singer, astrologer, educator, and writer. She has studied the intuitive and healing arts for over 40 years. Rise up and stand in your sunlight now with Cynthia Rose.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Standing in the Sunlight. I'm Cynthia Rose. I'm happy to be here. Also, I wanted to just mention, if you want to connect on the show page, Standing in the Sunlight on Facebook, or you could find me under Cynthia Rose Medium at Facebook. Also, if you want to listen to the show again, or if you're listening on playback, then welcome. But you can always find it on YouTube. I have a playlist on Cynthia Rose Medium there. And you can find me pretty much under Cynthia Rose Medium on social media. Today, I'm really excited to have Dr. Elson Haas. I'll tell you a little bit about him before I bring him on the show. As a pioneer in new medicine and one of the fathers of integrative medicine, Elson Haas, MD, has been an integrative family physician since 1973. He's the founder director of the award-winning Preventive Medical Center of Marin in San Rafael, California. During more than 40 years of medical practice, Dr. Haas has authored 11 books on health, nutrition, and detoxification, including Staying Healthy with Nutrition, the Detox Diet, the False Fat Diet, Vitamins for Dummies, Ultimate Immunity, and the classic Staying Healthy with the Seasons. His most recent book is Staying Healthy with New Medicine, integrating natural, Eastern, and Western approaches for optimal health. The public, colleagues, and patients know Dr. Elson Haas has the common sense doctor, bringing medicine and nature together in ways that are simple, practical, and effective for maintaining individual and family health. And I'm going to just mention his website here, but we will do this at the end of the show if you don't have a pen right now. So ElsonHaasMD.com, and we'll spell it out for you at the end. Also, you can find him at Preventive Medical Center of Marin.com, also on Facebook, Elson Haas, MD. Welcome to the show, Dr. Haas.
Hi, Cynthia. Nice to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to standing in the sunlight right after we get off the show. Because I'm in Northern California, and we have a nice blue sky, sunshine day, which we haven't had that much lately.
Oh yeah. I guess you've a lot of smoke.
The smoke is cleared finally with rains, but it was supposedly the worst air ever, here. But some people were telling me it was the worst air ever in the world, in the history of Earth, maybe even before, since humans came here anyway. So, it's a lot of people are wearing masks. In my practice, I'm seeing a lot of people with respiratory things still lingering that maybe had too much exposure, sensitive lungs. Also in the autumn is the time in traditional Chinese medicine of the lungs and large intestine, so people get more respiratory problems this time of year as well. So there's a lot to handle.
And is there something that Chinese medicine talks about why people get more respiratory in this time of year, or?
Well, it's simple. It's elemental, really. So it's a cold, damp, which when you look at my first book, Staying Healthy with the Seasons, introduces the idea of 5 elements And in OMTimes, actually, I have an article on the 5 keys and 5 elements as well, so how they tie together. But there's dampness and coldness that settles into the lungs that cause congestion and irritation and inflammation. And there's a lot of concepts about the way the elements interact, whether they help create one another or help block one another. So it has to do with the weakness in the certain elements and certain energies. And plus, it's a time of stress and worry, which also undermines the lungs, and so a lot of different things. But it's definitely a more common time for colds and flus and all that. So I'm starting to see that a lot more at this time of year.
Right, and you were talking about with the with the seasons, and is it important that we change our diet at that time of year as well?
Well, yes, we need, the idea of seasonal eating, which was my message back when my first book came out in 1981, Staying Healthy with the Seasons, was the simplest concept, people. Let's get back to nature. Let's eat what nature provides us, because nature has a great wisdom. And the idea is that, when it's warmer outside, we have more fresh and fruits and vegetables, harvesting more melons, things that are cooling in the body. In the colder time, we need to add more heat to our food. We need to prepare foods that store well, or that we can gather more nuts and seeds, grains and beans, things that we need to cook more. So we're having more fuel into our body. So the simplest idea is to think of food as your body's fuel, and what do you need to feed it to run. I mean, so much of our health starts with each of us, and our diet is what we have essentially the most control of. I want to talk a little bit more about our thoughts as well, because we have control over those much more than people are aware of.
Yes, I totally believe that. So you had started talking with the 5 keys. Do we want to start there and share a little bit of that?
Well, yeah, I heard in your intro for you that a lot of it's about really empowering people and taking care of ourselves. And we're each given a body when we land on Earth here, and it's our job. Our number one job really is to take care of this body that we have. And the way we take care of it affects whether we're healthy or not as we age. And to me, I always bring back the responsibility. Even in my practice, I work cooperative with people. I work to be a support person for them and help guide them, but I let them, more so than many doctors, make their own decisions about what they do. So I think one of my mottos in healthcare after all these decades is lifestyle first, natural therapies next, drugs last, or drugs and surgery last. So the lifestyle aspect, which really affects whether we stay healthy or not for most people, are my 5 keys. And the 5 keys are nutrition, exercise and fitness, sleep, stress management, and attitude. And we can go into those a little more deeply. I have a large nutrition book that I wrote called Staying Healthy with Nutrition, more than 1,000 pages, used by many students of nutrition. But the simple concept is eat a balanced diet, eat wholesome foods, avoid junk and chemicals. One of the issues that I have when I talk about in my recent book, Staying Healthy with New Medicine, I talk about the understanding causes of disease and really looking at the body. And the deepest cause, to me, is the cell. Cell health is at the core of really what keeps our body in balance or not. And the 2 aspects of keeping our cells and our tissues and our organs and our body healthy is to make sure we're getting all the nutrients that we need, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and phytonutrients from nature foods. These are the bioflavonoids, carotenoids, and many hundreds of other biochemicals that give food their flavor, their smell, their taste, and their colors, basically. We want that. And the second aspect, besides avoiding deficiency by getting a good balanced diet and chewing our food well and digesting well and all that, is to avoid toxins and chemicals, metals that get into our air, food, and water we put on our body. So when we have too many toxins, our body knows how to detoxify, but when we have more than we can handle, it can interfere with all the functions that our cells do and the enzymes, etc. So if we can heal so much if we just get a nourishing diet and get rid of our junk and chemicals. We can get into that a little bit more. So that's my basic riff on nutrition. The second level is exercise. Getting a good balance of exercise, having a variety of things we do, so that if it's raining outside, we still can do some weight work or go to the gym or do a video and do some exercise. We want a good balance of some cardio to keep our endurance, and our fitness and helping the body detoxify with sweating and everything. We want to do some weight work, which keeps our muscles toned and strong. And we want to do some stretching to keep ourselves flexible. And, we are as young as our spine is flexible, is an old yoga proverb. So one of the ways I keep myself healthy at my ripe old age is to do exercise most every day. I do probably 8 to 10 hours a week. I encourage my patients to commit to an hour a day. One of my questions to patients often is, or to audiences when I do talks is, do you know what the best exercise is? And people will say, oh, swimming or walking or what. I said, no, the best exercise is the one that you'll actually do. So if I can get people motivated to find something that they like. Not everybody likes exercise. I like it because I feel better when I do it. And so I'm used to that. I'm used to kind of, plus I love to eat. So if I don't exercise and I just keep eating like I see, retired athletes do, and then they start to gain weight and their cholesterol goes up and their blood pressure goes up, and all these other things. So that's exercise. The third is getting proper sleep. Half of the country doesn't sleep well, and we need sleep to recharge us, to give us energy. And I have on my website a whole program called Regain Your Natural Energy, and it starts with getting better sleep. But I've coined this syndrome after speaking around the country for so many years, because when I interview people, most people are doing substances to manage their mood and their energy. So I have an acronym that I write about in my Detox Diet book, with chapters on each of these. The acronym is SNACC, S-N-A-C-C. The S stands for sugar, caffeine, sugar, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, and chemicals. Chemicals are over-the-counter drugs, medicines, substances we use on our clothes, in our house, and things we spray, when we put on our hair, etc. So all those, and most people, I would say 90 to 95% of people are habituated to at least one of those, if not, and 50% for my findings are habituated to caffeine and sugar or alcohol, cannabis. So those are the main substances that people use to stimulate when they need energy in the morning and then to try and sedate themselves and relax at night. But when we don't do that in balance, we don't sleep well and we don't have energy, and then we need more coffee in the morning and we need more other stimulation. Other people do different kinds of drugs for that too. So to me, that's often a first level of improving health, is to look at our habits and realize I don't think any of these substances are bad in and of themselves, but it's how we use them. What's our relationship to sugar or caffeine or alcohol or cannabis or nicotine? So we want to be able to take a break so we can understand what they're doing in our body. And I know on a national basis, if we have everybody kind of clean up and get off their substances, that after a couple days of not feeling very happy about it and maybe having a headache from caffeine or having a little bit of fatigue from getting off sugar, you start to feel better and better. And that's what I encourage people to do. I've coined this syndrome, I call it the stimulation-sedation syndrome, which is basically the idea that we use substances, caffeine, alcohol, sugar, and cannabis, to manage our mood and energy. I said that before, but that's really the key, is we're manipulating and trying to keep everything balanced when I really want us to to feel what it's like, just like getting back to nature. What's it like to really sleep well and get up and have energy and feel good through the day without needing, crutches for that? So that's about sleep, and there's a lot of natural things you can do for sleep as well as medicines. Yeah, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah. Well, I just find, that when all those that habits you talked about, I mean, sugar, I really try and watch my sugar, but I find that it is such a challenge in today's world because so many things have sugar. And I mean, isn't there like a limit of how much sugar we should get each day? How many grams?
Oh, it's different for everybody. It just really depends how you do. If you're trying to work on your weight, yeah, you want to work on getting rid of simple sugars and carbs and all that. If you have an addiction to it where you have to have it, it really depends on how you feel. And the way to find that out is you just say, I'm going to take a week or two. Like half the patients I see when I interview them, they're having a cup or two or three of coffee in the morning. They're having a couple glasses of wine or some other alcohol. One lady yesterday was having 2 glasses of vodka, and that's how she ran. I said, when's the last time you actually took a week or two off of that? Well, she was sick last year and went off alcohol, but it was like the year 2000 when she was pregnant that she had, she took a break from, caffeine for a couple of weeks. But, so that's a level. I think everybody does a little sugar. It's just you drinking sodas all day and you eating, donuts for breakfast. Most of your listeners are probably a little bit more health oriented, but even in health crowds, when I speak to, most everyone is doing some kind of daily routine that they're just used to doing that's kind of affecting their energy and and their blood pressure and their moods and all these other things.
And do you think that I was recently speaking to someone who was talking about the many different chemicals, beds are sprayed with chemicals and so many products, and some people seem to get hypersensitive to chemicals. Do you see that in your practice?
Yes, yeah. A lot of people are sensitive to chemicals. A lot of people are sensitive to electromagnetics. Some people can't go into places where Wi-Fi is real strong. It affects them. It affects their brain, their memory. We're all a little bit different, and that's where it's important, to individualize medicine and individualize your own personal health more and more. I have on my website, I have a free course called The 5 Keys to Staying Healthy, which will go much more in depth and also has a questionnaire that you can take and look at where do you need a little work, where can you improve your health, and so I encourage people to do that. It's really something I've put a lot of time and energy into building, and that's something. My gift to your listeners is to be able to kind of follow through on that and get the basics. But the key is just to apply them, not just to hear about things.
That sounds like a great resource for people.
Yeah, thank you. So fourth, all right. So we have nutrition, exercise, sleep. The next one is stress management. Stress is a killer. Stress causes so many problems. And stress is really how we think about things. It's about a worry. It's about fear. It's about watching too much news. It's about hassles in relationship, hassles at work. But a lot of it has to do with what we do with it in our own psyche. And there's books out on worry. A friend of mine, Marty Rossman, wrote a book called The Worry Solution. Most of the things we think about and worry about don't ever come to pass. So, we spend a lot of time thinking about things. But stress is also, it's having ideas or expectations about life that doesn't really pan out. So that's when, that when we get upset about something or somebody, it's because we're thinking they should be being different than they are, or we expect them to respond in a certain way. But I think one of my favorite sections in my new medicine book is called The Art and Practice of Peacefully Not Getting Along. So most of us know, we're fine when we have somebody that we love or we're getting along with, but when we have disagreements, do we know how to really handle that and hear each other and learn the difference between a reaction and a response? reaction is usually a defense, where we're protecting ourselves. We're not really letting it go into us. We're just saying, well, no, what about, you did this. Well, no, what about you did that, or, calling each other names. So there's a whole, process, which I kind of work with patients on to a certain degree. I call fear fighting, but it has other names to it as well, where you really can have a discussion with somebody without getting hot-headed, without blaming or saying things out of anger, and was really listening and saying, oh, I heard you say that, you don't like when I leave my dirty clothes around the house, dear. And, it would be helpful if it'd be helpful. And so I'm going to do better to pick them up and at least put them in a pile, in my closet, or, whatever. Or I don't like when you leave dirty dishes all around. So, I'm a good student of relationship. And, to me, for men particularly, the most important words in any, partnership, relationship is, yes, dear. So we kind of are supportive of that. But learning how to have disagreements with somebody without hurting each other, without not speaking for a few days, or carrying grudges around. I mean, we want to be able to, if we I wish we had this in school, as children.
Oh,
you learn
just thinking
disagree,
the same thing. Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes. So many things that we could teach, to youngsters, and that's one of my passions is also reaching young people. When I talk to families and kids about nutrition, for example, I say number one rule is learn the difference between real food and treats. Real food come from nature, they come from the garden, they come from the orchard, or you go hunt them or whatever. And treats are all the processed foods and sugars and sodas and fries and Cokes and all these things. So, that's a beginning step. So we've covered nutrition, exercise, sleep, managing stress, and then attitude. Now, attitude is an overriding aspect and a core at the basis. So from my experience is I shifted my attitude and my health back in 1975 when I was overweight and had 20 years of waking up daily with allergies and congestion. I went on a 10-day juice cleanse, and it was so dramatic for me that I saw and felt like a new person. My body let go of 20 pounds. I woke up the third day, clear nose, sleeping 5 hours and feeling rested and well, and I started to feel better and better over those 10 days. And I said, wow, this is how I want to feel. It matters what I put into my body. I am going to try to start treating my body with love. And so it changed what I was eating. I started doing a couple days of detox every month. I started to tune in. I got body work. And at the same time, I was studying all about healing, mind-body healing, nutrition and detox, traditional Chinese medicine, herbs. And I said, this is, as I was studying that all through the 70s, I realized this is all valuable information. This should be part of healthcare. So I put it all together into my first book, Staying Healthy with the Seasons, which is still in print, 37 years later. And some people's, book that they kind of intro to, natural and new medicine, really. And, my new medicine book is about taking new stands for an acronym for Natural, Eastern, and Western. And so I still, my entire career, has been looking at these different systems and saying they can work together. If you understand them all and you work together and put them together into your own health program, it has much better potential than just relying on drugs or other treatments. So.
Yeah, I love the way you mentioned, the Eastern and Western together. I myself was on a healing journey, and the Eastern and the Western were both very important. Not one and not the other, but both were so important.
Yes. Well, all right, so coming back to attitude. When we develop this attitude of this is the only body I have, I'm going to take care of it to the best of my ability, guess what? We're going to start eating better. We're going to make sure we exercise. We're going to do what we can to sleep better. I didn't even talk about sleep hygiene, watching your electronics out of your bedroom, having healthy air in there. There's 50 different things, it's on my website, and you can read books about sleep. A lot of things you can do to improve your sleep. So those are key. But the attitude is really core, and a lot of people kind of undermine themselves with their thought patterns. And, since many of your listeners probably believe in, what we think about, what we envision is what happens in our lives, we might as well, as long as we're taking the time to think and to observe and to, envision certain things, why don't we do it positively? My first beginning work back 40-some years ago was studying healing and using guided imagery along with sound and acupuncture, and I used that to get people into a really deep, relaxed state. And then they would have kind of a journey, an inner journey, where they would talk to their own guides, and then they would visualize themselves healed. And that was the treatment. We were sponsored by a church to study healing. And I saw that when people envision themselves, when they visualize themselves better, those things started to unfold. They started to occur. So one of my first patients was an older lady who was getting arthritis in her shoulders, and she says, I'm really sad because I have all this beautiful greenhouse with all these hanging plants, and I can't water my plants. So she visualized herself watering the plants and loosening her arms and lifting her hands over her head, and she did that like 10 minutes several times a day. She came back in a couple of weeks. She was much better, and she was been able to water her plants. I had this other lady who she came in. She had these dry, cracked, painful fingertips. And I said, well, you're obviously not getting your circulation and your nutrients to your fingertips. A lot of people have cold hands, and they don't. I said, I want you to visualize your hands warm, open up your blood vessels, watch the blood flowing into your fingertips, and your fingertips getting nice and pink and healthy-looking skin. So she didn't come back for like a month or two. And again, this is a long time ago, but I remember these really clearly. She said, and her fingers were much better. She said, oh, by the way, I used to have I didn't tell you this, but used to have 3 or 4 migraine headaches a week. I haven't had any since I've been doing this. And so I called up, that was the beginning of biofeedback. I called up my doctor friend who was running a biofeedback center in Berkeley, California. They said, oh, yeah, we're learning that because when you learn to warm your fingers, you balance your autonomic nervous system, and you take the energy out of your head, because most of us are too headstrong, and you kind of bring it into your body, and your hands warm. Normally your forehead, that's why moms feel foreheads, is supposed to be a few degrees cooler than the rest of your body. But when it gets hotter, then we start to have stress and circulation issues in our head. So to me, it was a whole idea of just relaxing deeply and allowing the body to heal. I used to tell people, let's just get out of the way, and your body knows how to take care of itself and heal. And, we can support it even if we visualize healing happening. So, we're talking about the placebo effect in some way, and I think that's at least 50% of healthcare. So, when I first started practicing, I was being very responsible, working to be a people's doctor and a little philosopher, and I would tell people, if I prescribed a medicine, I'd say, this could do this and this and this, and I told them a bunch of side effects, just like TV commercials do, And so then after a while, I said, no, that's not really serving people. I'm going to say it differently. I'm going to paint a better picture for them so that they have a positive image to take with them. So if I give someone antibiotics for a respiratory tract because they've tried other things and they haven't worked. Remember, my motto is lifestyle first, natural therapies next, drugs last. So if other things will work, then I won't necessarily turn to drugs. But a lot of times I'm giving drugs to help people with depression or sleep better or treat an infection. So I'm going to say, if I'm giving them an antibiotic, I might say, well, this has potential side effects, but those are really uncommon. I mean, most side effects you read about in the PDR, physician's desk reference, are a few percent or less. So, the likelihood that they occur is not that much. They occur more likely if people are really worried and they're really afraid to take the medicine, I believe. So when I tell people now, so it may have some side effects, but you're not likely to experience those. What this is going to do is it's going to get into your system, and it's going to go kill those bacteria that are in your respiratory tract so that your body, instead of fighting that, can help, it can use that same energy to heal. And you're going to be better in a few days. So I'll just plant a positive statement with them, and that's kind of the opposite of what many Western doctors do. I get the most complaints I get from patients who've seen other doctors, and this is specialists as well as other family docs, is they say things from a predictive negative point of view. Like like I see many people who they've had an episode of wheezing and they go to a clinic or something. Doctors, oh, you have asthma. You're going to deal with this the rest of your life. You're going to need to be on these inhalers. And they start to tell people that they're going to have problems, and they give them negative imagery. Doesn't mean it may be true in some cases, but it's not true in all the cases, and it's definitely using that placebo effect in a negative way, a nocebo we call it, So, we want to be positive about that. As a practitioner, you want to encourage people, you want to uplift them, and you want to help them, get out in the sunshine.
If you take 2 minutes now, Dr. Elson Haas just called.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is recording artist and composer Yuval Ran, inviting you to a voyage through the chakras, a new double album of guided meditations to transform your life, a sublime musical medicine for nourishing inner peace and reaching to your higher virtues. Get it now at metamindfulnessmusic.com, METTA mindfulnessmusic.com.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, talk, touch their hair. Details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones we carry with us every day. Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
And we're back with our pause. And Dr. Haas, you were talking about the patients. And also, I have to say, I really love you. I love the patient relationship, the shared beliefs, and it's like empowering me individual to take charge of their health, and it seems so important. So I've gotten away from that, where people go to the doctor and hear, well, my doctor told me to not go to work. I've never, ever had a doctor tell me not to go to work. So there's a lot of times where it's like, well, let me just, I grew up in Canada, and it seems to me that there's like, we have health care, and I do think it's great for universal health care, but I do think that there's something we still need to take charge of our health. As a doctor and resource to help you, they're not responsible for your health. And it's something that almost needs education. A friend of a doctor of mine had to leave her practice, and she had people yelling at her because you're not responsible for somebody's doctor, a resource to help them.
So, yeah, it is a lot for us to take responsibility. Cynthia, your voice is going in and out. I couldn't really hear everything you were saying. Now, I don't know if the control room could help straighten that out, but your voice is kind of going in and out of audibility. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yeah, you cut out a bit too. So I was just talking about the doctor-patient relationship. Your outline for that is lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's really crucial. That's the last chapter of Staying Healthy with New Medicine, and it's really about finding a good fit for you. Now, it's not easy. I'm one of the only alternative doctors in the San Francisco Bay Area that takes insurance and Medicare, and does more family practice and health assessments and all that. Most of the alternative-oriented docs or integrative docs or functional medicine docs are on a cash basis, and people have to be able to afford them. And I've been working with other doctors to help them, see how to be able to do, more of a family practice, incorporating nutrition and natural therapies along with medicine. But, it's good if you can find a doctor that's a good fit, that is respectful of you and your time. Like I pride myself on running on time with patients. I give people appointments. I have one person at a time. I see them, and they understand that. They understand that they have a certain amount of time for us to look at everything we can, and we look at, most of my patients are on, a medicine or two, a few supplements, on different diets. How do we incorporate all that? Because no one studied this whole combination that we have of treatments. So when people are on different foods and supplements and drugs, they're almost like their own walking experiment. And that's why when I lecture to professionals, the physicians, I say, you may not like this, but in truth, everything we do in medicine is an experiment/experience. If people have to see what works for them, just because something worked for your last two patients and you give the same treatment for blood pressure or whatever, it doesn't mean this person will handle it. Some people will, the same with everything from, flu shots to medicines for flu. I just had this patient ask me to give her this new flu medicine, and she got sicker. She got all these side effects that came out from it, And I didn't really want to give it to her, but I believe that people have a right to make choices as long as they're not being, ignorant about them, about how they treat themselves. So I have patients who say, no drug, I don't want drugs. Whatever you can do without giving me drugs is fine. Or I have people say, no, I want drugs. That's what I want you to treat me with. And so I do it because I work cooperatively with people, and not a lot of doctors will do that. So I have about a dozen traits that I have. You want a doctor with shared beliefs. You want somebody who will respect your time and your belief system. You want someone who's kind and compassionate, who will listen and be present with you. I'm kind of not a huge fan of electronic records, because what I get complaints from patients is the doctor looked at me once in my visit. He or she was on the computer, because they're talking to you and they're writing. They're not really present with you, and that's, to me, a real downside of our new system of medicine. Besides, I think, we already know that things can be hacked when they're electronic, and I think people's privacy is more at risk with electronic records than it is with paper charts. So, it's still old school, but sometimes good medicine. I think better medicine happened in old school in many ways, especially with the traditional Chinese concept of the philosopher physician, the barefoot doctors, the doctors who help people live in harmony with nature and to keep themselves healthy. That's why my motto has always been, the stay healthy doctor, trying to really keep people. I have a chart in my book called the Health Illness Continuum. And most doctors, I woke up one morning, I said, most doctors will diagnose a problem and give somebody medicines, and they just manage them for years to come on their medicines. They're not really working with their diet or herbs or things that might be able to lessen medicines and improve health. They're just treating it. So they create chronic patients. And people have enough patients. So many doctors their practices are full. They can't see new patients. I see a lot of new patients because I don't make chronic patients so much out of them. Doesn't mean I haven't seen some people over 30, 40 years, but still they know how to take care of themselves, because that's my approach in healthcare, is to work with you to take best care of yourself. And to me, so when you're working on the illness side, you have kind of your homeostatic state, which may be, pretty healthy or maybe okay, not even great. And then you start to get symptoms, and then you've got a disease diagnosis, you got medicines, and you have side effects, and then you got more degenerative chronic problems. Well, that's one side, and you kind of work your way up toward death. On the other side of the health illness continuum is the health side, where you start to change your diet and eat vital, foods that have energy in them, and you take some nutrients and you support your cells to be healthy, and you start to have a little bit more energy and vitality, and then you get more creative, and then you want to be inspired and do good things in the world and help other people, and you kind of work up, up to enlightenment. So, at the top of the circle where death and enlightenment kind of meet each other, which is kind of a Buddhist concept, I guess, it's all the same. When we pass through the other side, we're in the light, and you're the sunshine girl on Om Radio, so it makes sense. But we have an option whether we can kind of work in our disease, kind of getting back to normal side, or we can work on how do I enhance my energy, vitality, and life, and add quality and quantity, to our years. We can. I think if we take really good care of ourselves, we can live longer and not have issues. I just to a friend of mine, Ken Pelletier, who's written a bunch of books. He has a new book out on epigenetics, which is the idea that your genes can express their potential illnesses or not based on your lifestyle, and this is really pretty well documented. It's really one of the advancing fields of medicine right now. And what he's reported, what he talked about in his presentation, was that diet and stress were the top two aspects that affected whether we had genetic expression for our potential problems that we carry in us, or not. The next is stress, exercise, our physical environment, and our psychosocial state. Whether we have love and support in our life, whether we're connected, whether we have, who are our people, who do we go to when we don't feel well, or, who's our friends that uplift us. Those are all important aspects. And that's part of my review with patients when they come in. It's not just what's wrong with you. I have a five-page questionnaire that I originally, did in my Staying Healthy with the Seasons book, which is all about, medical stuff, but also, where are you in your cycles? What do you eat? How much coffee do you drink? How much alcohol? How much sugar do you take? What medicines are you on? What herbs are you on? What seasons do you like? Do you have a garden? Do you spend time in nature? All these different aspects. So, in about, 5, 10, 15 minutes, I can look at that questionnaire and get a good sense of how this person's living, what their health is like, and go from there. So it's really, and that's the whole idea of integrative medicine, is that it's multidisciplinary. It looks at people's whole lives, but even more important, it addresses a different question when we don't feel well. A Western medicine question is, what can I take to make this go away? Should I take the antacid? Should I take my headache remedy? Whatever. Where a more integrative medicine question is, what's the message here? Body, why are you ill? What is needed for healing? What can I do differently? If I tune into myself, am I doing something? Am I eating something? Am I exposed to something that's undermining my health? And what can I do differently, or what can I change? What's needed for healing? And that's more of an inner question. I really believe that our bodies, minds, are very much like a computer, like Siri or Alexa. Alexis, can we ask the right question? We're likely to get an answer that makes sense and can be helpful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wanted to make sure, so we're not running out of time, where you could tell the listeners, websites or any information, and give you time for that.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go ahead and share.
I can give that out. So my website is elsonhaasmd.com. That's ELSONHAASMD.com, and that's where I have my free course, 5 Keys to Staying Healthy. I have my Regain Your Natural Energy course. I have all kinds of articles and ideas for you. I also have my related website, which is Preventive Medical Center of Marin. It's PMCMarin, MARIN.com. And I have, most of my books up there, and all my books are available on Amazon. And it's been good talking to your listeners and talking to you, Cynthia.
Yeah, it's really, really lovely to see a physician like yourself that's really integrated all of the Eastern and the Western, talking about eating with disease. I had to learn all this sort of myself in order to get healthy, but it's so important that people realize all of the information that you've given about eating healthy, all the 5 keys that you have. It's so many times I do hear people saying they don't know what's wrong, but it's education. They don't realize that it's what they think, it's what they eat, it's what they drink, it's their lifestyle, their sleep. They think it's something else. You're right. I see it all the time. Take an antacid, do something else, or they just think it'll go away on its own. And
we have so much. My courses that I teach are how to be your own best doctor, healing from the inside out, and all that. And I am looking for a couple new docs who want to come practice with me up in Northern California, so I can travel around and do more things. But I have a great clinic, and if any of your listeners are in my area, just check out the PMCMarin.com website and see if I have a great team of people. I've been at it for a long time, but I still like doing it. I love doing patient care and supporting people and just watching people improve their health, which is to me a much less stressful kind of medical career than most of my colleagues have. They kind of burn out. They want to retire. To me, I tell people I've been retired for 25 years because I do. The retirement is I get to do what I like to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.